I'm like, oh, well, the battery so far appears to be good.
What's happening? My name is Uncle Jake. That over there is a venerable Dr. Torque. I'm not even sure if I use that properly. The channel is Motors and Mischief. Welcome. And today we have a 2006 Arctic Cat 500. We had an electrical problem with this today.
So
yeah,
so
talk to us.
Neighbor behind here, Gary.
What up, Gary?
Had us look at this the other day. There's probably another video on that.
Yes.
Maybe. And it had some brake issues or something. There was clunking. Turned out to be a brake issue. So once he saw that I was awesome at everything I do, he wanted me to look at the issue with it having trouble starting. And also on the dash, when you get it started, it said volt. It was like right here, it said volt. In any case, I brought it over here. And
to the lab?
The lair?
The lair.
Or something. Put it in the garage so nobody tried to steal it.
Yeah.
And now we're going to look at problems and do some troubleshooting things that you can do with four-wheelers. We've got the battery, positive and negative, and then here's where the relays and fuses are.
This particular model.
So when you're having electrical issues, it's always a good idea to check the fuses. They're all fine. Trust me on that.
And how would one, if you didn't know, how would one go about checking fuses?
Well, here's a fuse, and you see how on the outside of the 10 there, that's a 10 amp fuse. It actually has two little metal doobies there. You can actually use your ohm meter to check it.
Oh, this is a very good tip, because I think lots of times people give it this old, which I do too. And I look in there and I go, is there?
Yeah, you can pull it. You can pull it and look at it.
But that's only a visual, quick inspection.
And it's usually a good one. But if you don't want to take every fuse out and put every fuse back,
right,
you can just leave them in there and make sure everything's turned off. And then you can put it to the ohm setting. Ohm. And then you can, if I can do this, with one hand, you poke it in those two metal spots and see if you have continuity. Oops.
Ooh, I saw that.
They're fighting with each other.
Yeah.
And then if you look at that, it goes to 0-ish. That shows us that we have continuity. If I let off, it goes to open loop.
That's a great tip, because I think most of the time, pulling those and looking, but man, you just want to know for certain that they're good, and you didn't want to take them all out. You can check it out with the ohm setting.
That's a digital multimeter set on the ohm setting.
It's a digital multipass. Got it.
So anyway, I don't know how to check these relays. We'd have to look that kind of stuff up. And I think these are diodes. I don't care about those either. So I'm just going to put that back on.
I put that back on. That was good. We were just checking fuses today. Okay.
So then,
and those are all good. So that's a check.
If everything is functioning correctly, the battery itself should be at about 12.5-ish volts, somewhere in there.
And regardless of the four-wheeler.
Correct. Well, if it's a 12-volt system.
Which?
Most.
Are there many that aren't? Most current ones.
Well,
anything
most
modern.
Current ones, sure.
Yeah. 12 volt. 12 volt.
If you're into that sort of thing. Anyway, for DC voltage, it's that symbol there. Usually it's the V with these other doohickeys on top of it. But this is a cheaper one, so maybe it's not as, fancy. But in any case, I put it on 12 volt, or sorry, digital volts, and I touched the positive to the positive, the negative to the negative, and we're seeing we have 12.8 volts, which is what I would expect. You want it to be 12 volts or above.
12 or above.
But
okay.
When a vehicle's running, it usually charges at about 13.5 to 14. And then so the battery will show that when it's running, but then that's because the charging system is hitting it with that much. And then it'll fall off some after it sits for a while.
Okay, so now there's another question. If you were wanting to check to see if it was charging, that's what you do? You just do the same check, or would you recommend?
There's two different things we're going to look at here.
Okay, cool.
On this.
We're checking it
on
out.
that. So these types of vehicles with a a smaller power sports engine don't have like an alternator like a car would. It actually has what would be called a stator that's kind of interior to the engine. I think it's actually under here on this one, underneath the pull start, which they don't all have, but this one does. You have to take some of this other crap off, and there's a thing with like 6 coils on it, if I remember correctly. And then there's a stator with 6, yeah, coils. And then there's a magnet that spins in the middle that, by the way that works, it generates 3-phase AC power. And then that is sent to the reluctor or voltage regulator, depending on who you're talking to. They'll get a big argument on the internet about that. And that converts it to our 13.5-ish volts DC that we're trying to charge the battery with and run all of the components with.
That's cool. That's cool. Interesting stuff, is it not? Learn how the electrical system works, especially if you want to do some work on it yourself. Like
so
right here.
We're going to look at something over here on this side next, which would actually be the output from the stator.
Okay, stator output. All right, so that's the checking the voltage.
That's making sure the stator is actually producing electricity for us. So to get to that stuff, we're going to take this side panel off. Yeah. And we've played with those things before on some of Jake's other things.
Such an awesome tool.
So basically, I've already taken some of them out. It's a rivet kind of a thing where you come under that like that and pop it up.
Huge.
And it causes this to, so you can squish it together and it comes out. So
this is one of those things where you think, oh, a screwdriver works just as good. It does not work just as good. You try one of these tools and then you tell me that it wasn't way better. That came out nice and easy.
Now with those 3 rivets out, the side panel comes off. Okay. And then we're probably going to need to squish in here a little bit. Basically, I already know this, but you need to know what you're doing. This thing right here, it's unhooked already, is the 3 wires that are coming out of the stator. Okay. Gotcha. And they come over across from the other side, they come out here, and then plug into a harness that then goes back to the regulator.
So normally, if you want to shine a light in there, you just disconnect this. That's interesting, it goes from all black wires
to all yellow.
Yeah, and striped.
Yeah, and that's not going to be consistent. So you really need to know what you're doing. Consult with someone who knows what they're doing, or a wiring diagram or something.
For this particular
test. This stuff we're doing right now.
Yeah. Not the battery or the fuses, but just this, yeah.
And then, so back here, just so you can see on this particular unit, the voltage regulator slash rectifier, geez, it's in neutral, is right here. It's this thing right there above the gas tank.
Oh, okay.
So
that's cool.
That's the part that converts.
Must get a little warm with all the open air fins right there.
Yeah, it needs to be cooled a little bit. So now we're going to do the AC test again, the stator test, test AC down there.
Why is this running okay with that important?
Because the battery has enough power to...
Exactly right, it's just not charging.
Correct, it is not charging right now.
Okay, cool.
So if we were to look at that, I'll put it on DC just so we can see. We're staying at 12.5. So we'll see in a minute that it'll be higher than that, but let's go back to AC volts. And if we touch it to 2 of the prongs here, you can see how it's at 28-ish volts. Oh wow, yeah. So it doesn't matter which 2 you touch it to, it should be completing the circuit AC-wise. And so that's working fine, the stator is working. So, fuses check, stator check. Yes. So now we're going to do the DC voltage doohickey again. Once again, positive, negative. Now we're up to, over 13, so the charging system is working.
Sweet.
So we have determined that the stator is functional, and now it's actually charging with the voltage regulator hooked back up. And so that basically leaves the battery in question. And if you notice, when we're turning it over, the battery voltage falls way, way off. So I'm thinking it's the battery. We'll do a little bit more testing to determine that for sure, but that's where I'm leaning right now. So it's been a couple days. we wanted to let it, sit.
Oh yes, we should probably tell you it's been a couple days. Here we go though.
But so we're just gonna see what happens when we try to start it, what the battery tries to do. So put it back onto DC voltage, which is the second one up there, and I'm gonna put this on the battery, and you can see it's still got a charge. It's correct for what we're after. So I turn the rig on, and I try to start it.
Ooh, look at that. Yeah, not only did that turn over really slow, but man, that was a major voltage drop. Yeah, that should be turning over way faster than that.
It should be turning over faster, and it should not be dropping down to 6 volts. The battery's got problems.
Yeah.
The battery has been fully charged with a high quality battery charger and twice. And it's just not
still going.
So probably got a bad cell or something.
As a little bit more explanation, that's why it was a couple days. You want to let this sit. We're double checking that it is the battery.
And I have the new battery, so we're going to swap it out and see how it looks. On any 12 volt negative ground battery system, I would always recommend taking off the negative battery cable first.
Why? Because I bet you most people think positive.
Now, you want to take off the negative first, because it actually has a negative ground on this, and most likely it wouldn't be a problem. But let's pretend I'm cranking away on this positive thing here, and I accidentally slip, or it just swings around wide enough to hit something that would ground, like maybe this. It'll actually ground that out and blow fuses, burn wires, hurt yourself,
and
burn your fingers.
You should never be negative.
So, once you get those removed, you tuck them out of the way. So here's the old one.
Look at that. That's a big old giant sucker, ain't it?
So the new battery comes with these little nuts.
Little nuggies.
So this battery I got will allow you to have a side post or a top post, or the bolt from the side.
Oh, yes.
Or from the top. Oops, top. But you have to put the nut in this way or this way, depending on how you're trying to do it. So, as always, you're going to want to check to make sure things are hooking up the same way. Positive was on this side, negative is on this side. So this is positive here and negative here, so it's the same.
Do batteries, many of them come with like the positive negative swapped side to side?
I don't know about, it's whatever is called for by the manufacturer a lot of times.
So it could be. The snaps. 500.
So I'm going to trade sides with you.
Like, you turn stuff on?
You know what you should do before you start this whole project? Turn the key off. It's testing, Jake.
Testing it.
Failed!
I failed.
Well, we're to the point where we're gonna
sweet. Move on
switch sides again.
Switch.
So we're going to look at the voltage and see what the voltage does when we attempt to start it. Just like
this should be a lot better.
Okay, so DC voltage. Wrap it one more time. So we're still in neutral over there, right?
Yes.
Okay, so neutral, key on.
Still looking good. Ignition.
Starter.
Whoa, that's a lot better.
Yeah, we haven't started it since that day.
No,
so
wow.
It started immediately.
Yeah, and it started faster too, like just because it's turning over better.
Yeah, that sounded normal.
Yeah.
So, ta-da!
Ta-da! Sweet. Well, that's a success.
That was a success.
And the horn works.
Ring the bell.
Ring the bell. But now you know how to check and make sure it's not the alternator. It's the what?
Stator.
The stator. That's right.
Starter.
The stator.
Charging system. Stator is part of the charging system. I don't know what the whole thing is called. It's like a. Let's go with stator.
We're gonna go with stator. Success. thanks for stopping by and checking out this cool little project that we're doing for the neighbor. Have yourself an awesome rest day. Thanks for hanging out with us. If you want to, hit the like button, ask a question. We're happy to answer them. We love you. It's Uncle Jake and Dr. Torque signing off with the fist bump of friendship. Whoop-ow! Sweet.
Did you hear any of that?
Anyway, I don't know why you keep going on with this analogy that's not really working. You should...
Joel, this is out of order. Joel.
You're probably talking about this one. No, it's the other green one over there.